Hi, I am Dr. Carol Birnbaum. I'm the proud superintendent of the Lenape Regional High School District, located in Burlington County. The last time I spoke in front of a group of senators, it was the day before we shut down everything in New Jersey. I brought with me a senior in high school, and I yielded my time to Drew, and it was about school funding. And Drew spoke passionately about the access to programs we had at Lenape. And he has been to our presentations on how we're one of the S2 districts, over 200 school districts losing funding every year. This is the 7th year of that. And he was so proud of the programs that he had at Lenape, and he spoke about the electives that he was able to take, particularly his business classes, which sparked his interest in majoring in business in college. And he played lacrosse and football, and he spoke about those programs as well. Since then, our focus has completely shifted. And you maybe did not hear a lot from our S2 districts over the last few years because of one-time revenue sources that were provided to school districts via COVID money, and also Senator Gopal's last-minute effort to save some programs and save jobs in our school districts last year, particularly with extra funding to those school districts. But we need to start having serious talks about sustainable and reliable revenue sources, and serious talks about fixing the flawed school funding formula that's been around since 2008. This bill, S 1410, is one very easy and elegant way to fix just one flaw in the funding formula, particularly with respect to special education funding. So currently, right now, the state uses an average classification rate. Now, I'm a former math teacher. I'm not going to get too deep into the math behind averages, but we all understand how averages work, right? It's a number somewhere around the middle, and that number comes from a group of numbers much greater and a group of numbers much smaller. So the state is providing $20,668 for 15.9% special education classification rate. The easy flaw in that is there are going to be school districts over the average and school districts under the average. So there's going to be a group of school districts not getting the adequate funding for their special education students, and there's going to be school districts that are getting funding that they don't even have students for. There's no reason why in this day and age where data is so easily accessible that we have to rely on an average, right? We know exactly how many special education students are in every single school district, and we know them by their classification rate. We're required to provide that data to the state twice a year, right, for our October 15th count, and also after that in November, where we have to recertify those counts. So we classify them from speech all the way through autism. So how do we support our students with IEPs if we're underfunded, right? Why? I've got 1,200 students that have IEPs in my school district, over 1,200 students. Why don't I have screaming parents because we have more than 15.9%? Well, because we provide those services for those students because we're legally required to, and it's the right thing to do, right? We have to give them access to their education along with their peers. So what do we do to balance our budgets? All the cost-saving measures that you need to do, right? We increase class sizes. Well, you can't do that for the special education classes, so you do that for the regular education classes. You need to reduce staffing. You can't do that in the special education classes. They need an aide. They need an interpreter. They need a team talk class. Okay, so what do? You start canceling programs in your regular education program, and that's how you're balancing your budget. So this is hurting all students in school districts that have a classification rate greater than 15.9%. You know, I think about Drew, and he talked about those programs that he enjoyed at high school, and you know, we're looking at those electives when it comes down to what is actually needed for an education or what is extra. I don't want to take away those extras that give students that spark and say, hey, I never thought I wanted to be a business major until I took Mr. So-and-so's business education class. Those are the programs we want to preserve, and we also want to support our students with our IEPs. So I want to urge you to move this bill and move it fast. We have 167 students over the 15.9%. What does that mean in dollars? It's $3.45 million. So that would really help us right now. So thank you very much.
Well, now I have the Lenape Regional School District.
Yes, hi, thank you. If you have not heard, our school district made the top 25 biggest loser list in the governor's proposed budget for state aid. We're accustomed to being on the losing side of S2. S2 was mandated to create gradual reductions for the last 6 years in state aid so school districts could make gradual cuts to their school budgets to right-size their school districts, if you will. You have a handout there, and the blue portion of that handout does demonstrate some of those gradual cuts that we've been making over the past several years. S2 law mandated that those cuts be gradual, so you can imagine our shock and our horror when we anticipated $337,000 loss to our state aid turned into $4.69 million. That's 20% of our state aid obliterated overnight. You'll see from that handout down below where we trimmed, we think, everywhere possible. We are trying to preserve our students' positive high school experiences, and now we're left with no other option but to eliminate the dedicated and hardworking educators and many student and academic extracurricular activities. We are faced with a hole in the millions because each year our local fair share of relative property wealth is going up, which means that more state aid has to go to the less affluent districts, which we understand. But what we don't understand, what no one can answer for us, is what good is it if taking away funding from any school district when districts do not have access to their community's relative community wealth? Since 2010, our tax levy has been capped at 2%. That came with a promise of no reductions in state aid. Well, that changed with S2. So the year after year of state aid reductions, coupled with the inability to have access to our community's local fair share, and other uncontrollable factors like decreased enrollment, increased health care, transportation, energy, the cost of everything going up, has made us be in a budget hole of the millions. We need your help now, and we need restorative funding now. Our timeline is at odds with your timeline, right? We can't wait till July 1st, because in order to make our budget whole, we're going to have to hand out a multitude of pink slips this spring. So we would like to avoid, the last thing we want to do is unnecessarily upset thousands and thousands of students when they find out that their favorite teacher, their favorite coach, academic program, or extracurricular club and activity will be going away. So I hope that you understand that, with this proposed budget, you guys have the access to really help thousands of students, not only in the Lenape Regional High School District, but throughout the state, and an investment in their education now is really an investment in their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kara Huber. I'm the School Business Administrator for Lenape Regional High School District. For us specifically, S2 was supposed to cut about $6.8 million with, a differential of enrollment, right? So we were expecting a state aid cut of $337,000 to $350,000 if I increased it based off of the per pupil calculations. And unfortunately, we were hit with a cut of $4.69 million. So this was obviously earth-shattering for us. We were not expecting it. We had planned each and every year for our projected cuts. So this obviously is the reason why I am here. I would only want to add our gratitude for starting real and meaningful conversations about improving the way our state supports education, and I would be willing to assist in any way possible. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you, members of Senate's Budget and Appropriations Committee, for this opportunity. My name is Sam Levin, and I am speaking on behalf of my best friend Daniel Leonard, who's sitting right here, and the entire Cherokee High School family. We are both very active members in our school, as we are presidents of the class of 2024, presidents in DECA, captains of the boys basketball team, leaders of our student section, and No Place for Hate members. The mantra this year's senior class went into, and that was also displayed on our student section shirts, was "Why not us?" It did not say "Why not some of us?" It also did not say "Why not me?" And this is because at Cherokee, we are all one town, one tribe. Every student and every staff member plays a vital role in making Cherokee the family we know it to be. Over the past 4 years, I have fallen in love with being at my school. While this may sound a little bit crazy, Dan and I show up to school 30 minutes early every single day to just get into the atmosphere. That is how much we love it. This love that we have for Cherokee is a direct result of staff members and programs within the school, as this is how the family atmosphere is created and maintained. The person that I am today is very different from who I was 4 years ago, and I credit that to the unbelievable teachers around me. Whether it be a younger staff member or a teacher with decades under their belt, all teachers make an incredible impact on our community. I appreciate talking to the 24-year-old teacher because we can relate to each other with ease. Simultaneously, I love talking to my 60-year-old economics teacher because he provides me with wisdom and lessons only learned through experience. My point is, within the Cherokee community, the diversity of our staff enables every student to connect with a teacher. Beyond the educators, the essential programs that are provided at our school is what made me realize what I'll pursue in the future. Dan will be attending Boston College in the fall, and I will be attending Penn State University, where we'll both be majoring in business. Without the DECA experience, which is an after-school club offered through the school, I do not know what I'd be majoring in. Additionally, we both have fond interest in political science because of the way we learned to conduct our government in our school through student council. Looking back, our passions were only found because the opportunity was presented to us. From a young age, children are taught to follow their passions. The most important part of following the passion is an avenue to follow it. On a grander scale of the entire student body, the essential co-curriculars that are offered are what the students look forward to each and every day. I've talked to countless students about getting involved, and once they did, they couldn't have been happier. They feel that their learning and social experience exponentially improved once they got involved with opportunities that Cherokee has to offer. What made me incredibly sad and quite frankly frustrated is that when I graduate in June, the school will not be the same. The school that Dan and I have worked extremely hard to keep a positive and inclusive environment will be drastically changed in just a few months. And why is that? It is because the School Funding Reform Act, which was put into action in 2008 when I was only 2 years old, it is indicating that our state aid needs to be reduced by 20% this year. The funding formula needs updating. To make this point clear, the SFRA after next year is going to be older than all the students in high school. Now is the time to give the students of the future what they need to succeed by restoring state aid. Every day, Dan and I see the future generations of Cherokee Chiefs, their siblings, neighbors, teammates, and friends. I know they're all ready to pursue every opportunity given to them. I know they're ready to chase whatever their heart tells them to go after. I know they're ready to be the future of our world. A lack of action today will deny these bright minds the future. Is that what we want to do, or do we want to give our future the opportunity to follow their dreams? I would like you all to think about our school community as Jenga pieces. As there's 3 columns to the game, there are 3 pillars to our school: staff, students, and programs. As we are trying to stack our tower higher to keep making it better, the state is pulling away pieces from under us. As you know, if you've played the game before, when you start pulling pieces from the tower, it starts to fall. Likewise, when you pull programs and teachers from our school, we collapse. New Jersey has one of the best educational systems in the country. Why are we funding it like a game? I want to leave with this final thought. Alumni, staff, and current students live by the saying, once a chief, always a chief. And there's a reason for that. We take great pride in our school and are grateful for all the opportunities. As the biggest school in Burlington County, there is something for everyone. The school, like all high schools in our district, is second home to thousands of students. From everyone at Cherokee and the LRHSD, please do not dismantle the pillars of our school. I ask you to reconsider the impact of the drastic cuts and restore our funding. Thank you.
I'm assuming you've had some real estate fluctuations. What was the impact? It was higher value?
$17 million over the last 2 years was our local fair share increase. And, you know, you can't really drill down into it. You don't know what's coming. You don't know why. But the problem is, you know, we can't even tax, 2% tax cap levy doesn't even cover operational changes from one year to the next.
Hello, my name is Carol Birnbaum, and I'm the superintendent of the Lenape Regional High School District in Burlington County. And like my colleagues here, we are in favor of Bill 4161, and we're really appreciative of all the nuances in it, especially the flexibility that allows us to raise taxes above 2%. Being an S2 district, we have lost, since the beginning of this process, over 36% of our state aid. So none of us want to go to programs and people in our cuts this year, but all the low-hanging fruit is gone, and it went away 6 years. And so the sense of urgency that we see from you all is amazing, because, again, I do think it does need to be emphasized, and I know that there's a delay bill. Assemblywoman Lampitt, your bill does allow us delay timeline, but that doesn't match with the statutory timeline to renew staff. So even though we could submit our budgets by June 30th, if that bill does move, we still would have to make a decision by May 15th to eliminate a lot of staff. For the first time in our budget this year, we had to appropriate over $1 million in our unemployment fund. That's a big number, right? Just to make sure that we can pay for their unemployment benefits when we non-renew them. So we're talking real people. First-year teachers that shouldn't be worrying about,
whether or not they have a job or not, and they're holding on and trying to be positive. They should be worrying about their students in front of them and not worrying about whether they have a job or not. And having to wait to May 15th is hard enough. And if this gets delayed even longer, we're going to have to let them go, and we won't ever see them come back. And we're really concerned about that. So again, I want to extend my appreciation to all of you for listening to us about this bill, for putting the nuances in it that give us the flexibility to tax above 2%, which is a sustainable fix to the problem more than the stabilization aid. And again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions or Assemblyman?
Thank you. If you don't mind, may I dialogue with the panelists? Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. You have knowledge that we don't, and expertise that we don't, and experience that we benefit from. So,
could I add our enrollment also with that?
Yeah, sure. Please.
So our enrollment the year before S2 was instituted till now went down 3.32%, and our state aid reduction is 36.5%. We're in the same boat as South Brunswick as far as district income and property values. For the last 2 years, our local fair share jumped up a total of $17 million. So the 2% cap on the tax levy is $3 million. Yeah. So we're never going to be able to make up that difference.
Chairman, if I might, enrollment down 3.32%, right?
Yes.
What percentage of your budget was state aid? It's down 36%, but what percentage of your budget did that represent?
So right now, it's it's $18 million of a $160 million budget. So it's small.
Well, yeah,
we're not that reliant on state aid, but we do need it.
Yeah.
About 9%.
Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Excuse me, Carolyn, may I have
Okay.
two questions? Sure. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for speaking on behalf of your towns, your budgets. I'm a former school board member, so unfortunately presided over a time when we did have cuts. So I do understand it, but I want to understand what other stressors that you're facing in your budget time besides the state funding. What are some of the issues? Would you also do any of you have deal with, how do you pay for your insurance? State health benefit increases?
So our health benefit increase is seeing a smaller increase this year than we anticipated. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
But what's the increase? It's still an increase.
I think it's like 4%.
4%.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. I think it's around 4%. We were anticipating 10% because actually an error was done behind the books where there were some bills on our books, and down there, school district was the same name, Lenape. So there are errors that are made, right? So we're worried about that. We saw that Runnymede and Palmyra, there was an error in calculating their equalization, their local fair share and district income. So we are appealing that to make sure that it is calculated correctly for our 8 townships. But the other stressors on our school budget, being a regional high school district, first of all, we're the largest geographically in the state. We cover 324 square miles. So our buses travel 324 square miles every single day. But again, because we're 4 high schools, our transportation costs are a lot higher than a K-12 because of all the after-school activities, right? So all the overtime for our bus drivers every single day for athletics and on Saturdays and on Sundays and through spring breaks and winter breaks and what have you.
So what's your increase in transportation
So
costs?
our transportation increase last year to this year went up 27%.
Correct.
Our transportation aid that we get from the state only covers 25% of our operational costs.
And it's flat at $509 for years.
Our security aid only covers 35% of our operational costs. Again, we want to maintain a safe, secure environment with 4 large comprehensive high schools and an alternative education program. We have higher security needs, we're just not fitting the model. We do need a long-term sustainable outcome to the school funding formula. I know that's not the venue for this conversation today, it's just for this bill, but we'll be happy to lend our opinion on the matter for long-term sustainable fixes to school funding. I would also add, special education funding. So right now we use a census funding, which is 15.9%. So it assumes every school district has 15.9% special needs students. So that means that there are, right, what do we do with an average? There's some school districts that are over the average and some districts that are under the average. Well, we're over the average. So there are some districts that are getting funded for kids they don't have, and school districts that are getting not funded for the kids that they have. So we're at 18% special needs students. We have 1,200 special needs students in our school district. That's a loss of $3.5 million that we're not getting for those students because of the 15.9% cap on special education aid.
We've been proposing a number of bills to address your issues, but the problem is, I think adding that stressor on local taxpayers to fill the gap where the state has failed you is not the fair, I don't think is a fair solution as a former board member who dealt with cuts. And we had to address that and keep a tight budget and did everything you're talking about. And the transportation costs are still out of control for a district of my size, which is much smaller than yours. So I appreciate you guys articulating the other stressors. I do support the state funding where they should be funding. I don't know if I support putting more of a burden on your local taxpayers. That's the only reason. But I do believe and I appreciate you articulating the fact that the state aid funding formula is not addressing the needs and the genuine needs each school district are trying to face. So thank you, Chairwoman, for that, and thank you all for coming today.